Your soul shall be mine.
Okay, so playing Zoo once again, and as predicted, Perna is going to just get the one drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. So he does mulligan most of his hand. So he got the Tuskar Totemic that he can actually play early on in the game. Okay, so playing the Voidwalker. Look, it's too soon. One attack creature definitely means nothing, in my opinion. Ginge might even just play it with the Argent Squire with the Beast, develop you a little bit of a board. Oh, but playing Forbidden Ritual instead. So saving the Beast of Sergeant just for a more efficient kind of trading later on on the game. It does contest most of the board, and you can potentially get a pretty big creature out of it too, like the Totem Golem. If the Totem Golem is really picked up here, it's actually very devastating for Ginge. But 1/1 is not bad, because it does a little bit of contestion too. Okay, so we're gonna see the Argent Squire coming down. We're gonna see the Beast of Sergeant probably using it on one of the 1/1s to trade into the Tuskar Totemic, and keeping up a little bit of board control with the Voidwalker into the 1/1 and going to face. This is a little bit plays a little bard here, but instead toteming up instead, so that's also a little weak as well. But fortunately enough, a 1/1, a Searing Totem was spawned instead of any other one, because a 1/1 can actually damage his minions, and that's basically what you need. And if Ginge's actually gonna taunt up the Argent Squire, the 1/1 can actually trade into the Divine Shield if it's not traded in. Okay, so Defender Argus is being played here, as expected, just to create a stickier kind of board. Lightning Storm might actually come down here, because this is actually a pretty threatening kind of board. Fire 2. It doesn't remove everything on the board, potentially, but it's still something on the board that you can play out. And the Defender Argus is not going to be sticking on the board, so pretty good for Perna. This might be actually a consideration of actually playing the Doom card, but since your opponent's board is really weak, you can actually afford to play the Imp Gang Boss and the Crazy Alchemist and possibly just go face. You might actually want to pop this Divine Shield, but then again, if you do pop it, Perna has an easy trade with the 1/1 board really nicely as well, especially when he has the Lightning Storm in hand and also the Stormcrack, and he doesn't really want to be overloaded too next turn just because he can play the Fire Elemental. So playing the Tuskar Totemic is definitely really good in my opinion, and picking up the Manatide Totem. So Ginge might actually needs to react to that and use his minions to actually trade it out, and less damage actually going to the face. So Perna is definitely slowing down the game with the Manatide Totem itself, but Direwolf Alpha being picked up, so he's easily traded into the Manatide Totem if he so wishes to. Trading into the Tuskar Totemic here, and then using the Direwolf Alpha, buffing up one of the 2 attack creatures, and just trading into the Manatide Totem. Alright, not bad, not bad. And playing an Argent Squire right at the end there. Definitely really good for Ginge at the moment, building up a really good board, but we will probably see a Lightning Storm coming down. Okay, so possibly just, toteming up and just Lightning Storming. That's really good. Using Argent Squire to actually remove what's left on the board. So having a lot of control on Perna's kind of side of the board at the moment, so really good. Woohoo. I would probably just slam that. Drop the Power Overwhelming. That does feel kind of bad. Okay, so deciding not to drop the Power Overwhelming, but possibly using it to use on the face, and especially when you know 2 Lightning Storm are removed already. Yeah, Worgen Infiltrator is really good. Okay, using the 1/1 to actually trade it in. So any big creatures Perna kind of plays out, you can actually use the, or you can play actually the stickier kind of creature, which is the Thunderblood Valiant, which is a little bit harder to remove. But we know there's a Power Overwhelming in Ginge's hand, so that Worgen Infiltrator is actually gonna do a lot of work. And picking up the 3-drop, which is not the other one's a 2-drop or 1-drop, so you can actually play the Zoom card without losing too much value. But 2 Dark Shire Countsman being picked up, that's really good. I would personally just use the Power Overwhelm right now to actually remove the Thunderblood Valiant, and then trade trade the 2/2 into the totem. Alright. So yeah, playing Azure Drake was really Krakow on something else, like another bigger creature, like possibly like a Doom card or a Sea Giant. Just because Dark Councilman can actually snowball out of control most of the time, so removing it now is actually quite essential in my kind of opinion. Dark Councilman into the Doom card kind of play, but then again, it feels really bad to remove Forbidden Ritual since it's such a good card at the moment. That, like, since you know that double Lightning Storm are gone, Dark Shadow Councilman into Abusive Charge, trade out the Azure Drake, and then playing the Forbidden Ritual for 3 tokens. I feel that's pretty good, and then you can potentially play your Doom Guard without any loss in terms of value. Resources on board and not really allow Ginge to actually maintain this board. Hex is being played quite early. That's not bad too, assuming that your opponent doesn't really have Doomguard in hand. Like, I know like the Hex is kind of good.
So many.
Oh man. Alright, okay, so Defender Argent is being picked up, so removing most of the taunts on board. And the Doomguard, just because Perna is using Hex, right? Use the Hex. Not hexing the Doomguard really hurts him now, because then he's gonna be really hard to move, especially like behind that taunt too that he created from Hex. So it's really well protected. Like, so even stuff like, okay, so he trades it in instead. So this is actually pretty hard to remove as well, just because the Fire Elemental can't actually clean. Okay, so Fire Elemental coming down here, removing what he can actually remove, and then we also see a thing from below as well too. Wow, thing from below. What a good card. What a strong card. Just because you can fit in such a big creature in such a high mana cost. Like, you can play a high mana cost kind of creature and then play thing from below from 0. Very huge kind of tempo kind of play. But Ginge picking up the Sea Giant. Oh man. And for Perna, in order to actually remove the Sea Giant, he first has to go through the Hex Frog first. And we know that there's no Lightning Storm unless he picks a Rock Biter weapon here. Ooh, actually that's actually quite good too. Combo this with the Flame Tongue Totem as well. But I don't think he actually needs to, just because he can't really remove... Oh yeah, he can actually remove the Sea Giant with the Flame Tongue Totem, so picking up that Argent's Horse Rider is actually very crucial. Oh man, back and forth. Direwolf Alpha being picked up to potentially move almost everything, and another Doomguard. Keep this Doomguard alive, because he really needs to rely on this Doomguard to actually win the game at the moment. Yeah, like the Azure Drake needed to die, but he because the Azure Drake is like the biggest threat right now, because the Doomguard. Okay, so going face instead, I definitely like that. You can't really remove the board kind of cleanly and then you time, because you're gonna lose out most of your minions on board just because you left something on the board on the Perna side of the board. But unfortunately, use it. Actually, he needs to use this whole board to actually. Oh, no, not really. Just because there is a Rockbiter weapon in hand, he can combo it with the Divine Shield to remove the Doomguard, and then I guess Perna can use his Azure Drake to trade off one of the Flame Imps. In my opinion. Oh, actually, yeah, Direwolf Alpha is probably the better pick, just because it does represent 4 points of damage. And then we're gonna see a Mana Totem from Perna's side, pressuring down Ginge just a little bit, just by gaining a little bit of card advantage. Imp Boss, not a bad pickup. You're going to use the Flame Imp to trade into Flame Tongue Totem, because that represents way too much damage. And you can't really afford trading into 3/2 into the Flame Tongue Totem and using the 1/1 trade into the Argent Horse Rider, and then forcing Perna to actually use the Azure Drake to actually trade something on the board. Damage on board, and there is another 4 in hand with the Lightning Bolt. Ooh, Taunt Totem, that's actually pretty good. Having the Tunnel Trap buffed up as well. It's just, it depends if Perna actually wants to use his Azure Drake to actually trade into something like the Flame Imp or actually onto one of the 1/1s, just so he can keep the board a little bit cleared and have it like a lot more efficient kind of trade. So Flame Imp is actually the target. I definitely like that. Just so the only thing Ginge can actually move is probably the taunt. Okay. Ooh, picking up the Thunderblood Valiant. That's actually really good. Oh man. Picking up very small creatures from Ginge's kind of side. He really needs a big creature to actually stabilize at the moment. Just force Perna to sort of waste his board to actually trade into it. Like, he really needs something like another Sea Giant at the moment, or even a Leroy. Leroy would be lethal, but picking up the thing from below, that's huge. So even Leroy is not lethal at the moment, and he's kind of trade off most of the board with the totems he has right now, buffing them up by 2 attack. So he's able to trade up most of the board, especially removing the Knife Juggler. That's going to be really, really crucial, especially when you have another taunt on board, which is 5/5 body. That's hard to remove as well. So I possibly will use this Thundertrog to remove this Knife Juggler as well. Having only 2 1/1s on board is definitely not feeling good on Ginge's kind of side. So in order for Ginge to win, he definitely needs some Power Overwhelming and Leroy. So let's see what he picks up. So Flame Imp and Knife Juggler. That is not what he's looking for, and Perna is going to take game number 2.